let's talk today about inflammation. Now you might see it behind me. I have a little visitor. Freya is laying back there. That's my dog. But I want to talk about inflammation because this has become sort of a nutrition buzzword. You hear all these people saying, oh, don't eat this, it's going to cause inflammation, or don't have this ingredient, it's inflammatory. But what does that even mean? And is that even true? Can you even have a one food that causes inflammation? I actually asked this on TikTok, and a lot of the overwhelming response was they had no idea. They had no idea what inflammation was, or even if one food could cause inflammation. It was just something they assumed people said was a thing that happens, and they believed them. So first and foremost, let's define inflammation, right? So we have acute inflammation, which is when there's a sudden, immediate sort of damage to the body, right? It could be an accidental cut of your finger, or even a mosquito bite. And in order to heal that cut or mosquito bite or whatever, your body's going to send an inflammatory response. And how that happens to you is you're going to have sort of a red inflamed area. It might be a little bit tender to touch or whatever that might be. And then it heals and that goes away, right? So that's acute inflammation. Now, chronic inflammation is when your body continues to send these inflammatory cells and have that inflammatory response when there's seemingly no danger. So your body's essentially attacking something that really isn't there. And so how that's going to present is usually in chronic disease. Things like Alzheimer's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, type 2 diabetes, cancer, heart disease, things like that are all going to cause this chronic inflammatory response in the body. Now, if you were to have one of those chronic diseases that's causing the chronic inflammation, right? Rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, type 2 diabetes, all of those things that I listed, then when you had blood work done, you're likely going to see higher C-reactive protein levels or CRP levels and possibly a higher white blood cell count. And that's because of that disease, your body's in a state of chronic inflammation, and those are two blood work inflammatory markers that would be present. However, what's important to note here is there is no one food that causes an increase in those two things. There's no one food that's going to cause this spike in white blood cell count or spike in CRP levels. Now, they've done some research in rats to say that maybe trans fats causes an increase in CRP. But when you dive into that a little bit more, it's more that the trans fat is going to cause maybe atherosclerosis, which is clogged arteries, or heart disease, or things like that, that then causes the inflammation. So it's the disease itself causing the inflammation, not necessarily the food. So if you were to be chronically eating exorbitant amounts of trans fat, you may find yourself with high blood pressure or heart disease or something along those lines. And yes, you may then have inflammation. But it wasn't that one food that immediately caused the increase in white blood cells or C-reactive protein. Hopefully you see the difference there. Now, what's also important to note, though, is that if you're eating a diet that's rich in vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, fiber, even omega-3 fatty acids that's in like nuts and fish and stuff like that, those can help decrease CRP levels. So those are highly recommended for individuals with these chronic diseases. And of course, it's great for everybody as a part of a balanced diet. So what's really important to note here is that if you have a little bit of trans fat in your diet, or if you have one that's being thrown out there a lot is canola oil. For some reason, that's getting a lot of heat in the media these days. If you have a product that has those things in it, or you have those foods occasionally as a part of a well-balanced diet with all of those other things, vitamin A, C, E, fiber, omega-3s, all of those lovely things, there's a very low chance that anything is going to be inflammatory. Remember, there's not one food that is going to cause an inflammatory response in the body. Now, let me touch on real quickly some of the people that mentioned they had specific symptoms for themselves. If you're eating a food and that food you know for a fact causes you to get really constipated or really bloated, or maybe your skin breaks out or you get eczema, yes, that's a personal response to that food. but that's going to be person specific. So you need to realize that maybe that food isn't best for you to have very often, or maybe you do need to cut out that food from your diet if you're having that immediate response to it. But again, person specific. We can't say as a blanket statement that this food is inflammatory and you shouldn't eat it. So next time you hear someone bashing a product or saying something bad about a particular food or ingredient, and the reasoning is, oh, it's inflammatory, remember, that's not true. You can have that food as a part of a well-balanced diet. Do I want you to eat a lot of fiber and protein and veggies and good carbs and all of these things? Absolutely. But it's okay to have some of those foods that people are bashing, because remember, no one food can be inflammatory. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.